My family never lets me touch them. It's for the best. I'm not supposed to touch anyone. That's been the rule as long as I can remember. Mostly, my earliest memories are of aunts and uncles smiling behind glass in their white coats, faces softened by reflections. They pressed their palms to the pane and blew kisses that fizzed against the surface. I learned to make shadow hands back at them, to trace a finger on my side of the world and watch their laughter ripple like a radio on the far side of a storm. But other memories live like splinters in me. Men with guns, a woman whose touch had been silk and not ice. I think she was my mother. A blinding light. A roar that filled my ribs. Then silence, and this room without windows, without doors, with a slot for meals, and a bell that hummed like a trapped insect. My uncles and aunts aged. I did not. Their hair silvered. My skin stayed the same. They never answered the loud questions. They called me sick. They promised a cure. I had everything I needed. Books stacked like small cities. Paints that stained my fingers until the cleansers smelled like ozone, and old television that played Gilligan's Island until the credits became my lullaby. Still, what I wanted more than air or food was simple: a hand to hold, a cheek to warm against. When longing presses on a heart long enough, it becomes hunger. One evening, a hand reached through the slot with a tray of stew. I backed into the corner by habit, small and obedient, but the ache was louder than the habit. I ran. It took one breath, one mistake. I seized her wrist. Her skin was dry and dark as old paper. It crumpled under my fingers and unspooled like ribbon burned by a candle. Flesh curled back like scorched film, teeth smeared with black soot. Ah! Her yell tore the room clean. I kept saying, I'm sorry," until security came, and the world folded into a new shape. They moved the meals to a machine. They installed a new slot that clicked shut with no human hand behind it. They told me then, in tones that smelled of vinegar and pity, that I was dangerous. Not because I wanted to hurt anyone, but because I did. I did, and would. Something in me carried a heat that wanted to leave. I learned to live with the shame of the memory, the ash pattern on the floor, the way the staff avoided my eyes. I learned to hide the longing. Last week they gathered. The fluorescent lights hummed like bees. My aunts and uncles wore their coats, but their smiles were sharper, as if they had practiced them on dolls. A man with a clasped jaw and a leather binder stood in the doorway. He spoke about the country, about need, about service. Men in heavy rubber suits, he said, would come. They would take me outside. I pressed my palms to the glass until my fingerprints fogged, and thought of a mother's silk, of the touch I had lost before memory could keep it safe. We have good news. An uncle said, "You are cured." They brought me a chair and a paper name. When one of them read it, the letters felt like stones dropping into my chest. Mochitsura Yamamoto, Nagasaki, 1945. The room tilted.
A year. A town I did not remember as a town, but as heat and wind and light that made the skin sing.
The image knitted itself into the corners of the explanation they fed me. A blast, a residue that took human form, a thing they kept under glass to study until someone could turn a ruin into a weapon or a cure. My life had been catalogued between lab reports and coffee stains. They promised gloves, they said. They promised a suit that would let me touch without undoing anyone. They said the country would wrap me in rubber and dispatch me to places where I could give or take. They spoke of missions and targets like men choosing where to plant flags. I listened and tasted the metallic tang of fear. I wanted to trust them. I wanted to believe in being cured so hard, a small, ashamed child inside me climbed up my throat and watched their faces. One after another they smiled, the practiced smile of people who decide someone else's fate and call it mercy. When they fitted the suit, it smelled of rain and plastic. The seam hissed. They fastened a glove over my hand and said, "Just one touch at a time," controlled. The glove fit like an apology. Outside the chamber, the corridor was a long white maw with men in dark coats waiting like judges. They opened the slot to let me pass. For a moment I saw my face reflected in the glass, a pale ghost with the sea of my childhood behind me. I felt the old hunger springing up, bright as the memory of silk on my skin. I thought of the woman who had held me then, whether she loved me or abandoned me, whether she'd been warmed or burned by me, I could not remember. All I knew was this: they called me by a name that belonged to light and ruin, and they had plans for my hands. I stepped forward because I had spent my whole life practicing how to be small and brave in cages. I stepped forward because they promised curing and because I wanted, once, to know if a touch could feel like home.